Amen.
Amen. So I'm on, I guess. Um, First, and let me tell you, it's been one rough week. And actually, I didn't even know I was supposed to be doing this Thursday. I thought it was Roshan. And the good thing, Roshan, I, and Gary got on the line because they were like, nah, do the show week. So right after that, the basement got flooded, and the week went from there. But, I always know if something's happening like that, that God's got a plan somewhere. So um, I wanna I wanna introduce it because I wasn't sure how many brothers came up. But first, I like to start by making sure everybody kind of knows me as a person and give you a little background. But one of the things that I shared in the previous time I was talking is that I've been part of men's groups before, and I just wanted to share one of the men's groups that we used to meet on Saturday mornings at the church, and all the men that were part of that group had recently been released from prison. So we would get together and we would talk about the difficulties, trials, and tribulations they were experiencing now that they were back in society, and their incarcerations ranged from 3 years all the way up to 33 years. We also had a couple of female volunteers, and so I used to tell the ladies, look, I'm not going to tell the guys to tone it down. So if you feel offended or it becomes too much for you, just leave. But the ladies were tough. They were kind of unfazed. So in the first meeting, the language was flying. And I was just grateful there was nobody else in the building when we were there. And these men are all believers, but they were believers in prison, and this was a different location, different situation. But over time, they started to apologize or say excuse me when they swore, and eventually they just stopped without any correction or anybody saying anything. They just stopped, and to me, God had handled it. They just needed some grace to grow. And I say that because, we as men need to give each other grace to grow. We're not always going to look Christian like, we're not always going to be on point. And that needs to be okay because sometimes we got to help walk each other out of a bad place. So I give you a story that really shaped who I am today. In my walk, I was attending the church, and God has this habit of showing me things that I don't even want to know or put me in situations that I definitely would not have signed up for. So we're at this church. It's August, and most preachers take August off, and you get guest preachers. So this guest preacher was there, and in this church, the pews were set in an arc, so that the outer pews, the two outer pews, were actually, angled in and in front of the center pew. They were actually closer to the pulpit. And I was sitting on the right pew. There was no one on the left pew, and the only person in the center pew was the guest preacher's wife. And while he was preaching, he said something and took my attention to his wife. And I saw her roll her eyes and make a slight face. And from the look on her face, what he said didn't seem to line up with what she was thinking. And I heard God say to me, always be authentic. So my goal is always to be authentic. It isn't to appear saved or meet some Christianity standard that other people get approval from. My relationship is strictly based on my relationship with God. And you can only understand my relationship with God if you know what I've been through. So in my career, I've been exposed to how bad people can treat each other. From a woman who had 3 consecutive boyfriends rape her and her 3 children, two were preteen girls and one was a 3-year-old boy. To a guy who, one of my colleagues, who we were double teaming because we both were very concerned and hairs on the back of our neck stood up about this particular situation. And she just happened to go by on a whim. I say God urged her to go by on a Friday rather than go home, and interrupted him strangling his girlfriend. Another situation is I'm trying to reach this guy as the U.S. Marshals gear up in their SWAT uniforms, at the fire station on the corner of Morton and Gallivan, as they prepared to raid his mother's house on West Selden Street. And I'm going down West Selden Street ahead of them looking for him. I had many conversations with God about these situations, asking, where is the way out? It's written in 1 Corinthians 10:13. No temptation has seized you except what is common to man. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will always provide a way out so that you can stand under it. Well, God, where was their way out? His answers aren't always satisfying. For the woman with the children, my presence was like a fire extinguisher, putting out a dumpster fire. For just making sure she didn't have another boyfriend, and everybody, including the children, were in counseling. For the girl that was getting strangled, obviously her life was saved, but what really was in our spirit was that a murder-suicide was prevented, which would have included their 6-year-old daughter. Being able to intervene for the guy before SWAT came after him, I was able to save him from being shot because his ex-girlfriend had set him up to be possibly killed. You talk to God, and I sit there and I wonder, and I think, God says to me, so maybe you're the first step of their way out. Maybe it's simply you are the only representative of God to stop this, and he'll work out the rest later. I've been on the front line of spiritual warfare, and you don't know how God will use you. Are you the one that clears the land? Are you the one that plows the field to soften the ground? Are you the one that plants the seed, waters the ground, or protects the plants, harvests the crop, or reaps the fruit? That's 7 steps, and I'm no farmer. In the spiritual warfare of your life, which skills do you possess? Which skills will be provided by someone else? And what is the plan in the storm? Simply put, you can ask, well, where are you going? Well, we're all on the front line of spiritual warfare, whether you recognize it or not. No temptation seizes you except what is common to man, not common to non-Christians or just sinners, but common to man, which includes us. When I look at those that I've worked with and the people of God, I see the same root issues. The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. As men of God, we should expect to thrive, not just survive. Surviving is reacting to whatever life throws at you. Dodging and swinging when necessary, but thriving is a whole different mindset. Thriving means I see the obstacles ahead, understand what it will take to overcome them, position myself for success. It's not just about making it, it's about having a strategy, equipped and determined to win and succeed. 1 Corinthians 10:13 is not just a reminder of God's faithfulness in providing a way out of temptation and trials. It's about recognizing that the strength to overcome doesn't always come from our own abilities, but from the grace and the guidance offered by our faith. Your ability to discern God's voice in moments of doubt or challenges is about a deep connection to your spiritual journey and a reliance on His divine wisdom, despite what you might think. God is our strategist. God orchestrates our lives, but He gives us free will to choose. So choose. Marriage is hard. Divorce is hard. God created marriage as a covenant. It requires work. Divorce is hard, brings emotional, financial, and spiritual consequences. Choose your heart. Being in shape is hard. Being fit is hard. God gives us the power to make choices that honor Him. Choose your heart. Being in debt is hard. Being financially responsible is hard. God's principles promote stewardship, diligence, and generosity. Debt is a burden leading to stress and bondage. Choose your heart. Communication is hard. Not communicating is hard. Relationships thrive on honest and loving communication. Silence and avoidance breeds resentment and misunderstanding. Choose your heart. Being saved is hard. Not being saved is hard. Following Christ requires self-denial, obedience, and endurance. Choose your heart. Life will never be easy, it's always be hard. But we can choose our heart. God doesn't remove the heart, He redeems it. He turns our struggles into strength, our discipline into blessings, our obedience to victories. The beauty of His orchestration is that when we choose the heart that aligns with His will, we walk into His divine purpose for our lives. Like, I always keep things personal, so I have 2 questions. I just want you to pick one. The first question: what would your life look like if you focused on not what was happening to you, instead what you can do about it? Second question: in your biggest challenge right now were placed in the hands of a man you admire, how do you think he'd handle it? So while you think about that, I'm going to give you one last story that might help bring all this into fruition. And Lonnie was the one who reminded me of it. So I also had both my hips replaced. On the first one, I was in so much pain. It was affecting every part of my life. Everything was about how far do I have to walk? No matter where I went, how far am I going to have to walk? How long will it take? How much pain am I going to be in? How long will we be sitting there so that I can recover from the pain to make the return trip? Finally had the surgery. After the surgery, I was in pain still. Here's the difference. The pain I was in now was the pain of recovery. And if I was obedient to the instructions, if I was obedient to the instructions given for rehab, the pain would eventually go away. Versus the pain I had chosen to live with that was robbing me of my quality of life, where I got used to the dysfunction and accepting the pain as my norm. What would your life look like if you shifted your focus from what's happening to you now to what you can do about it? And if your biggest challenge right now were placed in the hands of a man you admire or woman, how do you think they'd handle it? Just answer one.
Okay, just 1 second. Who has the Motorola Moto 8? Could you let us know who you are? I sent you a chat. You just and didn't respond. I just want to know who you are.
I apologize, Gary. I'm driving. This is your Deacon Rick Copeland. Bless you, my brother.
That's good. Well, you good, man. I just want to know who you were. That's all.
Yeah, I'm just on the road. Appreciate it, man.
I no problem.
The chat as I'm watching you. You know, I'm driving in Boston. You know how these drive.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Oh yes. I got it.
Attention.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. I
Yes, sir.
appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Bless you as well.
All right.
All right.
Well, I'm on deck. Thank you, Eustace. That was really powerful. That people can come off mute. You know, you all done, brother?